all the time ignoring the fact that you're the one who provided the awful definitions that you're reacting to. I know, you say, well, so-and-so really is behaving poorly. Yes, so-and-so is behaving poorly because he's stuck in his own closet as well. Well, you have a better job to do than to confirm his bondage to his closet. You have the capacity in you, from this place of excellence in you, to confirm something better to this brother or sister who's behaving poorly. And to be that which inspires him or her to consider the possibility that the definitions that are keeping him bound are not legitimate for him or her. Just as I do with you. You've got the picture. I want to let things set there for a bit. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we'll go into questions and answers. But I want you to just be with what has been said for a few minutes. Before we go on into other wonderful things. Okay. We have a follow-up question in the back there.
Hello?
Hello.
Okay, I guess I'm asking this at the risk of sounding whiny, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway.
I am not unfamiliar with whining.
Okay. Okay. In the past few years, I've read a couple books by people who've actually gone through the process of becoming either enlightened or more enlightened, to the point where their whole perception has changed. One is The Power of Now. And both of those individuals one of them was on the point of death from a physical disease, and just gave up and said, if there's a God, you're in charge now. And Eckhart Tolle was in a severe mental depression, I would guess, would be one way to put it, when he had his transformation experience. And they both go on to describe what that experience has led to for each of them. But the question is, when we go home, or when we walk out the door from this event, there will be a tendency for us to fall back in our own ways. Because I would say most people here, let me speak for myself. I'm not in a severe mental state. I have some physical ailments, but they're relatively minor. None of them that I know of, at least, are life-threatening. And so
none of them that would force you to the edge of yielding to God.
That's right. That's right. And I'm not experiencing joy all the time. So when I'm not experiencing joy, then I'm not aware of the kingdom of heaven. But
You're describing what I described as comfortable misery.
yes, comfortable misery, right. So the question is, without that extra push, which I don't particularly want to have, I don't particularly want to have to go through a life-threatening illness, or I don't particularly want to become severely depressed, or, those other roads to enlightenment, which I think even isn't that how St. Francis became enlightened. So what does it take for the comfortably miserable person like myself to make that step? Does it take constant vigilance? Does it take listening to inspirational tapes every day? Does it take give us some tips. How do we, without the tips to the comfortably miserable person, I guess is what I'm looking for.
Well, I gave you one giant tip, and that is to engage your curiosity. It's a beautiful day, isn't it?
Yes.
And don't fiddle with the switch on the mic.
Okay. I was trying to be good.
Are you sure it's a beautiful day? In other words, what I'm saying is, today meets a Pacific Northwest definition of a beautiful day. Is the day beautiful because the situation coincides with a definition, or is it a beautiful day because you're looking at it beautifully? Do you see what I'm saying?
I think I do, yes.
You might say it's such a beautiful day today that it doesn't call for a lot of curiosity from me. But if it's a murky, cloudy day, and it's miserably cold, and you're not enjoying it very much, you might say, oh, this is a good time for me to be curious to know what's truly here, what's divinely happening here. You see what I'm saying? There isn't anything that's going on, not even what you call a beautiful day, that isn't a perception you're having based on a definition you're holding about good days and bad days, beautiful days and gloomy days. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. And
so the curiosity needs to come into play even when it's gorgeous. The curiosity needs to come into play if you go on a vacation to Hawaii and it's beautifully gorgeous and you say, wow, God has really been creative here. God knows how to create beauty. And that's a point where curiosity needs to come into play. You go on a trip and you drive through a desert And you say, God, I'm glad I don't have to live here. Because it doesn't meet the definition of beauty that you are holding. And yet, if you move to the desert and you live there for a number of years, you begin to notice how exquisitely beautiful it is. And what makes it exquisitely beautiful are the differences in the shades of gray greens, sort of bland colors if you just look at gray green. But when you see this gray green in contrast with that one that's a little bit more blue green, you begin to have an appreciation for beauty that escaped your eye in the beginning because you weren't able to recognize the beauty because it wasn't included in your definition of beauty. You see what I'm saying? Now, what I've just described there about learning how to see beauty where you hadn't seen it before is not the same as desiring to know what the divine truth is here in what you're seeing. Because you can see this beauty, this desert beauty, without ever connecting it with God. You can see the beauty I was describing without ever connecting it with God. Without ever having the experience of it being utterly divine. So the big tip I can give all of you is always be curious to see more of reality than you're seeing, even on an exquisitely beautiful day, with an exquisitely beautiful view. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Something else you can do, and you might want to write this down where you can be reminded of it, is to remember that you have the capacity to be the agent for change. You have the capacity to be a healing presence. So that if you see an accident, or you see someone stumble and fall, or you see someone in the grocery store bump up against the corner of a counter and wince because they hurt themselves, you can at that moment say, that isn't God's truth. Accident and pain is not what God is being right there. And I at least intellectually know that, and I'm claiming that for this person. If you realize that you have the capacity to be an agent for change, then you will tend to more frequently try to come from that place of excellence in you that acknowledges the divine truth that you're aware of, even if it's only an intellectual awareness. And so you will silently speak on behalf of those you see or circumstances that occur to consciously claim God's omnipotence in that situation as opposed to what it appears has happened. And this will begin to put your mind in a more active state of abandoning the current definitions you're using. You most likely would say, oh, that hurt. You would feel for the fact that they bumped into it. And you say, ooh, you would have a hurtful reaction, sympathetic reaction on their behalf. There's no no way for you to be an agent for change in that agreement with the current definition, the current interpretation of what it means to bump into the corner of a counter on your hip. You see? It doesn't mean you have a responsibility to do this. I never encourage you to be the presence of love from a sense of responsibility. But if you know you have the capacity and that your thought makes a difference, then you can begin to enjoy doing something new with your mind. With a conscious choice to come from that place of excellence in you that can meet a response from the place of excellence in your brother or your sister, whether a word is spoken or not. Does it take diligence? Yes, because your current habit is so ingrained. And so to in effect establish a new habit takes practice. To establish a new way of relating takes conscientious practice. You know what? All of you get plenty of support all day long, every day, from your brothers and sisters, your relations, your acquaintances, to confirm and reconfirm the current definitions of everything. You get lots of help to stay stuck in your closet. What I want you to know is that you have available to you an even greater amount of support for getting out of your closet, for breaking your habits. You have your guides. Each of you have your guide. You have me. You have the Holy Spirit, plus the will of the Father, which is for you to have no other experience than being His presence embodied and expressed and expressing. So you have great support once you decide to break the habit that you're currently engaged in, to establish a new pattern, if you will. And I want you to remember that. You are not doing this alone. You're not doing what you're doing alone either. Like I said, those who are in their closets are all busy getting you to confirm their closethood and getting you to confirm your own to yourself. And to see to it that you don't abandon them by getting out of your closet. So, curiosity, self-discipline, and remembering that you have the capacity to be an agent for change, so that you practice being an agent for change when things happen during the day. That call for a blessing on your brother or sister. You see what I'm saying? You have a capacity to bestow a blessing on your brothers and sisters all through the day. And you bestow the blessing by, in one way or another, acknowledging the presence of God right where your brother or sister is, no matter how they may be behaving, or no matter whether they bumped their hip on the corner of a counter at work or in the grocery store or wherever, or kicked their shin accidentally. Instead of wincing yourself and say, ooh, that must have hurt, you say, "'Tain't so." If God is incapable of being pain, then in spite of what I just saw, pain can't be what's really going on there, and the experience of being a hunk of matter that it can experience pain is an illusion. And I stand with this person on the side of what's true about them, because I know if I do that, the potential is for the experience of pain to immediately cease, because that's their birthright, to be experiencing exactly what God is experiencing and not to be experiencing what God is not creating. You see? So that's not hard. Remembering that you have the capacity to bring a blessing to your brothers or sisters during the day, whether there's any occasion for conversation with them or not. Those things will keep you pretty busy.
Yes, they would. I guess another part of that same question, or let me put it this way, I sometimes, even though I know intellectually what you're saying, sometimes I'll get in a spot where, and this is happening less than it used to, but I'll get in a spot where I get stuck emotionally, so that, for example, I get discouraged about what's happening at work. And so it tends to cloud my experience, or it makes me tense about other.
You get discouraged because you don't have any vision. You get discouraged because you're forgetting to look for the inspiration that would be the answer to the thing that's distressing. You're forgetting that there's an answer, and you're only seeing the problem. It's easy to do, to become preoccupied with the problem, with the way things appear, and with the way those involved, how shall I put it, with their lack of vision. Well, if they were handling it differently, the situation wouldn't be like it is, and then I wouldn't be distressed.
Yeah, that's a good description.
Yes.
What?
So the answer lies in the fact that you're not experiencing the inspiration that would resolve the problem and be inspiring to the others who are not yet inspired. In other words, you're looking at the situation and defining it in a particular way and making yourself miserable.
Yes, that's right.
And the need is to get beyond the definitions you're using that cause you to be discouraged. And the way to do that is to remember, again, that there's a place of excellence in you. This place of excellence well, you might imagine that it's a big black kettle hanging over a fire in a fireplace. Not a witch's brew in it, but a moving, active, a container of moving, active, elements of truth that have as their purpose to come forth as insight as vision that goes beyond your current definitions. This place of excellence in you is not just like a repository of principles. It's a place in which love is constantly moving and emerging as clarity, as new clarity, if you will, as insight and vision, as I said. Inspiration. This place of excellence in you is a place of the movement of love intending to come forth to identify needs met. So when you go to this place of excellence in you, well, first you have to remember you have a place of excellence right in the middle of your frustration. And when you remember that, then you'll know you have another place to be than just in the experience of frustration. So you are able to abandon your commitment to the frustration and bring a little bit of your attention toward the place of excellence, because you know that is like a pregnant void in you, from which will come inspiration that will provide the information that will resolve the problem that's causing you your frustration. In a way, it will come forth in a way that will resolve it for everyone concerned, because everyone will be able to recognize a really excellent idea. Now, you become an agent for change in the dynamic, a healing agent for change. You just got to remember that there's that place in you, and that you are not at the dead end that your definitions, your current definitions, are telling you you are. You see?
Yes.
In the beginning, remembering to do this may take a little discipline. But if you do it, and you have the experience once of finding the inspiration coming forth that inspires others, and the situation is resolved, you won't forget it. You may get caught again in another frustrating situation, or another situation where your definitions and their limits are frustrating you. But having had the experience of the inspiration once, which is not an inconsequential experience, it will be easier for you to remember, oh, last time when this came up, that's what I did, and wow, so I'm going to do it again. And the more times it happens, the quicker you are to abandon your readiness to be miserable. You see?
I do. And so is this a description of the process to seeing the kingdom of heaven? Or
these are steps in the right direction, yes.
okay.
Now, don't make a big deal out of awakening, out of waking up, as though it's going to be one big, instantaneous major step. You know, it's like the old joke, how do you swallow an elephant? You know, if you think of this instantaneous awakening as something perhaps overwhelming, but the way you swallow an elephant is one bite at a time. So, remember that ultimately it's not, let's say mechanically, it's not as big a change as you think. It's a shift of perception. That's all.